What if every single day you've labeled as not ready yet was actually the perfect day to begin? For years, you've been telling yourself the same comfortable lie. Tomorrow, I'll start the business. Tomorrow, I'll have that difficult conversation. Tomorrow, I'll finally become the person I know I'm capable of being. But the Roman Stoics understood a brutal truth that modern comfort has made us forget. Tomorrow is where dreams go to die. Today, you'll discover 5 powerful Stoic principles that will shatter your excuses and force you to stop spectating your own life. These aren't gentle suggestions. These are weapons forged in the crucible of ancient wisdom, designed to cut through the noise and build something real. Watch till the end. The principle you skip might be the one you need most. Marcus Aurelius sat in a military camp on the frozen Danube frontier, surrounded by death, war, and the crushing weight of an empire on his shoulders. He was the most powerful man in the known world, yet every night he wrote to himself with desperate honesty. In Meditations, Book 2, Passage 5, he penned these words that should shake you awake. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances align, not when you feel ready, now. This wasn't motivational speaking from a comfortable throne. This was philosophy forged in blood and mud, written by a man who understood that time is the only currency that truly matters. While you scroll endlessly, while you plan perpetually, while you wait for the perfect moment, Marcus Aurelius was building an empire and documenting wisdom that would echo for 2,000 years. Here's what makes this urgent in your life right now. You're living in the most distracted era in human history. You have infinite entertainment, endless information, and zero focus. You're drowning in content about how to live while forgetting to actually live. The average person will spend over 7 years of their life on social media. 7 years. Imagine what you could build with 7 years of focused action. In this video, we'll explore 5 Stoic principles that will obliterate your procrastination, destroy your excuses, and give you the philosophical foundation to start building your life today, not next week. Not when you're ready. Today. These aren't comfortable truths. These are the hard principles that separate the builders from the dreamers. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Amor fati, love your obstacles. Marcus Aurelius declared in Meditations, Book 5, Passage 20. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is the radical Stoic principle of amor fati, love of fate. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending pain doesn't exist. This is about a fundamental reframe that transforms victims into victors. The Stoics believed that every obstacle, every setback, every bad thing that happens to you is actually raw material. It's fuel. It's the very thing you need to build the strength, wisdom, and character required for what's next. Think about the psychological power here. Most people encounter an obstacle and immediately ask, "Why is this happening to me?" That question creates victimhood. It positions you as powerless, as if life is something that happens to you rather than something you're actively creating. The Stoic asks a different question. What is this teaching me? How can I use this? This shift in framing activates completely different neural pathways. Modern neuroscience confirms that when you reframe adversity as opportunity, your brain releases dopamine and activates problem-solving centers instead of fear-based reactivity. You literally become smarter and more capable when you love what life throws at you. Here's the brutal problem this solves. You're waiting for conditions to be perfect before you build your life. You're waiting for the economy to improve, for more capital, for more time, for less stress, for the right moment. But perfect conditions never arrive. Life is always going to throw obstacles. The only question is whether you let them stop you or whether you use them as stepping stones. So, here's what you do, starting with your current biggest problem. Whatever obstacle you're facing right now, financial pressure, health challenge, relationship difficulty, career setback, stop resisting it. Stop wishing it away. Instead, ask yourself, how is this making me stronger? What skills am I developing? What weakness is this exposing that I need to address? Lost your job? Now you have the push to pursue what you actually want instead of what's comfortable. Relationship ended? Now you can become the person worthy of what you truly desire. Business failed? Now you know exactly what doesn't work and you're fearless about trying again. Health crisis? Now you learn to prioritize what actually matters instead of what's merely urgent. At work, when projects fail, don't collapse, extract the lesson, and iterate faster. In relationships, when conflict arises, don't flee, develop communication skills that will serve you for life. During financial pressure, don't panic. Develop resourcefulness and creativity that abundance never teaches. Most people waste years resenting their circumstances. The Stoics built empires by using their circumstances. Every obstacle you face is either a wall that stops you or a step that elevates you. The obstacle itself is neutral. Your response determines everything. But loving obstacles isn't enough if you're directing your energy in the wrong places. The next principle shows you where to focus your power. Let's move to Lesson 2. Lesson 2. Voluntary discomfort train in peacetime. Seneca wrote in Letters to Lucilius, Letter 18, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This is the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort, and it's the antidote to the soft, comfort-addicted culture that's destroying your potential. The Stoics didn't wait for hardship to arrive. They invited it. They fasted when they had food. They slept on hard surfaces when they had beds. They wore simple clothing when they could afford luxury. Why? Because comfort breeds weakness, and weakness guarantees failure when real challenges arrive. They were training in peacetime for the inevitable wars of life. Here's what this principle truly means. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're making a deposit in the account of weakness. Every time you hit snooze, take the easy path, avoid the difficult conversation, or numb yourself with entertainment. You're training yourself to be soft. And soft people break when pressure comes. The psychology is straightforward. Your brain adapts to whatever you consistently do. If you consistently choose ease, your tolerance for discomfort atrophies. Then when real hardship arrives, and it will arrive, you have no capacity to handle it. You quit, you collapse, you medicate with distractions instead of facing reality. Here's the devastating problem this solves. You've become too comfortable to build anything significant. Building requires sustained discomfort. It requires early mornings when you're tired. It requires doing work you're not good at yet. It requires rejection and failure, and the burning sensation of being stretched beyond your current capacity. If you only do what's comfortable, you only get what's comfortable, which is mediocrity. Your application starts this week, not someday. Implement intentional discomfort into your daily routine. Take a cold shower every morning for 7 days. Not because hot water is unavailable, but because you're training your mind to do hard things when you don't feel like it. That's the skill that builds everything else. Fast for 24 hours once a week. Skip all food from dinner one day until dinner the next. Not to punish yourself, but to remember that hunger is survivable, that discipline is trainable, and that you're stronger than your cravings. Work out when you're exhausted. Wake up before sunrise. Choose the stairs. Carry something heavy. Stand when you could sit. Delete one comfort app from your phone, the one you compulsively check when you're bored or anxious. Replace mindless scrolling with sitting in silence for 10 minutes. Your brain will scream for stimulation. Let it scream. You're training it to be comfortable with discomfort. At work, volunteer for the difficult project everyone avoids. In fitness, do the exercise you hate most because that's where your weakness lives. In relationships, have the uncomfortable conversation you've been postponing. In life, stop choosing what's easy and start choosing what builds you. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. The next decade will be harder than the last. Economic volatility, social upheaval, rapid change. The soft won't survive it. They'll be casualties of their own comfort addiction. But you'll thrive because you've been training for this. While others were scrolling, you were strengthening. While others were numbing, you were building capacity. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort because they knew that involuntary discomfort was coming. They chose their hard so they could handle the hard that chose them. Which version of hard are you preparing for? But even with strength and the right mindset toward obstacles, there's a trap that stops most people before they start. The next principle eliminates it. Let's continue to Lesson 3. Lesson 3. Action precedes motivation. Start ugly. Marcus Aurelius struggled with this. In Meditations, he literally had to talk himself into getting out of bed. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for? The Emperor of Rome had to motivate himself to get up in the morning. Let that sink in. If the most powerful, disciplined man in the ancient world struggled with motivation, you're not broken when you don't feel like it. You're human. Here's the principle that changes everything. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel inspired. You don't wait until conditions are perfect. You don't wait until you're ready. You start, and the motivation follows from the momentum of movement. Modern psychology has proven this. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Once you start something, your brain obsesses over finishing it. But if you never start, waiting for perfect conditions, your brain remains stuck in inertia. Newton's first law applies to life. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. Here's the devastating problem. Perfectionism is murdering your potential. You're waiting to start the business until you have the perfect plan. You're waiting to create until you have professional equipment. You're waiting to exercise until you join a gym. You're waiting to improve your life until you feel motivated. Meanwhile, mediocre people with superior action are building everything you're dreaming about. Your application is simple but hard. Identify one thing you've been postponing. Start it within the next hour, not tomorrow, not next week, within 60 minutes. And here's the key. Give yourself permission to start badly. Your first attempt will be clumsy. Your first video will be awkward. Your first workout will be pathetic. Your first sales call will be uncomfortable. So what? The person who starts imperfectly will always lap the person waiting for perfect. Set a timer for 20 minutes right now. Work on that project you've been avoiding. Don't edit yourself. Don't judge the quality. Just produce. Do one terrible push-up. Write one messy paragraph, make one uncomfortable phone call, send one imperfect email. In business, launch the minimum viable product, stop adding features, and start getting real feedback. In fitness, do something today, even if it's 1 minute. In creative work, create garbage consistently. Quantity builds quality over time. In relationships, have the imperfect conversation instead of the perfect silence. Most people die with their potential locked inside, perfectly preserved and completely worthless. The Stoics changed history because they valued action over perfection. But action without strategic thinking can waste energy. The next principle gives you the targeting system. Let's move to Lesson 4. Lesson 4. Premeditatio malorum, rehearse disaster. Seneca wrote in Letters to Lucilius, Letter 76, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." This is the Stoic practice of negative visualization, and it's the secret weapon of unshakable people. The Stoics didn't practice toxic positivity, they practiced radical preparedness. They deliberately imagined worst-case scenarios not to manifest them, but to prepare for them. When you've already fought the battle in your mind, the real battle doesn't devastate you. It just confirms you were ready. Modern psychology calls this mental contrasting, and the research is clear. People who visualize obstacles alongside goals achieve significantly more than those who only visualize success. Why? Because life doesn't care about your vision board. Life brings chaos, setbacks, and punches you weren't expecting. If you haven't trained for those punches, the first one ends you. Here's the problem this solves: fragility. When your entire strategy depends on everything going perfectly, you're one setback away from collapse. When the client says no, when the market shifts, when the relationship ends, when your health fails, if you haven't mentally rehearsed these scenarios, you'll quit. You'll call it not meant to be, when the truth is you weren't prepared. Here's your practical application starting tonight. Take your biggest goal and ask, what could prevent this? List every obstacle: rejection, financial setback, self-doubt, lack of support, competition, illness. Now, for each obstacle, create a response plan. If I get rejected 10 times, I'll refine my approach and try 10 more. If I run out of money, I'll take night work and continue building. If people criticize me, I'll evaluate feedback honestly and ignore noise. Every evening, spend 5 minutes visualizing tomorrow's challenges. The difficult conversation, the moment you don't want to work out, the temptation to quit. Visualize yourself facing it and winning. Feel the resistance in your mind first, so when it appears in reality, you've already overcome it once. In business, plan for deals falling through, have backup clients. In health, expect low motivation days, have simplified routines ready. In relationships, anticipate conflict, know how you'll respond with strength instead of reaction. The unprepared panic when things go wrong, the prepared perform. Obstacles don't disappear because you ignore them, but they lose their power when you've already defeated them mentally. Now, here's the principle that ties everything together and gives you the ultimate advantage. Let's move to Lesson 5. Lesson 5. Tempus praeterit, time passes. Build now, Seneca wrote in On the Shortness of Life. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us if it were all well invested. Tempus praeterit, time passes. This is where everything converges. You understand how to love obstacles. You've trained yourself through voluntary discomfort. You're ready to start imperfectly. You've prepared for setbacks. Now comes the final question. When? The answer is now. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when circumstances improve. Now. The Stoics were obsessed with the present moment because they understood that it's the only moment that exists. The past is gone, you cannot change it. The future is imaginary, you cannot control it. The present is your only point of power, and you're wasting it. You're wasting it scrolling. You're wasting it overthinking. You're wasting it waiting for permission, for motivation, for the perfect moment that will never come. Meanwhile, your life, the one you keep saying you'll build someday, is evaporating like morning mist. Here's the problem: analysis paralysis. You've consumed endless content. You've read the books. You've watched the videos. You have knowledge. What you don't have is results. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. You're an expert at learning who never actually does anything. Your final application is the simplest and hardest. Right now, within 5 minutes of finishing this video, take one action toward the life you want. Not a massive action, not a perfect action. One action. Send the email you've been drafting in your head for weeks. Do 10 push-ups. Delete one time-wasting app. Make one sales call. Write one paragraph. Save $1. Apply to one job. Have one honest conversation. Then tomorrow, do it again. And the next day, and the next. This is how empires are built, not through grand gestures, but through relentless daily action that compounds into inevitability. At work, stop researching and start producing. In fitness, stop planning and start moving. In business, stop perfecting and start testing. In relationships, stop waiting for them to change and start being the change. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire, commanded armies, and wrote philosophy that echoes through millennia. He did it all while reminding himself, you could leave life right now. That urgency prevented waste. That acceptance of mortality made him alive. You have knowledge. You have this moment. The only question is, what will you do? Let's bring this home. You discovered 5 Stoic principles that separate dreamers from builders. 1. Amor fati, love your obstacles and use them as fuel. 2. Voluntary discomfort, train yourself in peacetime for life's inevitable wars. 3. Action precedes motivation. Start before you're ready. 4. Premeditatio malorum, prepare for obstacles before they arrive. 5. Tempus praeterit, time is passing right now. Build today. These aren't philosophical ideas for intellectual discussion. These are tools to build the life you've been postponing. The life you've been telling yourself you'll start when things settle down. Things will never settle down. That's the point. Marcus Aurelius faced war, plague, political betrayal, and crushing responsibility, and he still found time to build a philosophy that outlived his empire. What's your excuse? You have resources he couldn't imagine. You have technology, information, and opportunity at your fingertips. The only thing you lack is decision. So here's what happens next. You choose. You either close this video and return to comfortable patterns that keep you stuck, or you move. You take one action within the next 5 minutes. You start building. If these principles resonated somewhere deep in your chest, if you felt the truth cutting through your excuses, tap that like button. Not for me, for you. It's a declaration that says, I'm done waiting. Drop a comment right now. Which of these 5 principles hit you hardest? Which one are you committing to apply today? Your public declaration creates accountability. Say it, make it real. And if you want more unapologetic Stoic truth delivered every single week, more philosophical weapons to build an unshakable life, subscribe. No fluff, no gentle encouragement, just the hard wisdom that transforms. Remember, Marcus Aurelius didn't have tomorrow guaranteed, neither do you, but he used his time to build something eternal. Stop wasting time, build your life now. Become the master of your mind, rebuild, refocus, rise.